Well, hello there. Yes, it's time for another episode of the Nailsin Ratings, and time to review another episode of Black Lightning from the CW channel. Yes. Well, this episode was called Sins of the Father, the Book of Redemption. Boy, these titles. They're really long. So basically following in the same themes as the show has all along, and somewhat predictable that Gamby, the Alfred and tech guy behind Black Lightning's crime-fighting endeavors, was a secret agent for a obscure agency that I'm forgetting the exact timeline. I'm guessing late 80s to early 90s. So this would have been about the time that Black Lightning was a little child, or well, maybe early teens. I don't know. Anyway, he was there to scope out potential targets for this experimental drug that was supposed to make black people docile. Jeez. Because supposedly, the political situation was getting really loud and scary or what have you. Boy, I don't remember it that way. There was certainly the LA riots and that sort of thing. So I guess, and for the context of this, you'd have to assume that Freeland had riots too, or something along those lines. I don't know. It's certainly not like it was in the 60s. Certainly when you're still fighting the vestiges of the last remnants of the segregation South and that sort of thing. But the Black Lightning is not that old. But anyway, here, this ASA, I believe it's called, did this business. And so they set all that up, and Gamby was scoping, and Gamby realized that he didn't want to be a part of that. And so he became the good man, and he ended up protecting Jefferson Pierce. But unfortunately, he was the source to Jefferson Pierce's father, who was a reporter, and this got Jefferson Pierce killed. The people selling the drugs were actual drug gangs and what have you, and Tobias was one of them. And so he went and killed Black Lightning's father, which began Black Lightning's crusade and what have you. And so now Black Lightning knows all this about Gamby, doesn't want to see him anymore. His daughter, who is quite the activist, but it's still, she sees Gamby's point of view here and is trying to convince her father to be forgiving of him and all that. Meanwhile, Gamby himself has pretty much felt guilty about it all, of course, as he should, and he saw Jefferson Pierce, Black Lightning, as the son he never had, and that's pretty much what the relationship they've had since then. And so I think the forgiveness will happen unless Gamby, of course, is killed off. He was tortured by the ASA, who wanted information, and they pretty much figured it out because it wasn't that hard that Jefferson Pierce is Black Lightning. But now his whole family's in trouble and all that. So there's a lot going on here. Granted, it's a fantasy story, a superhero thing, and obviously drugs do not give you superpowers, but this plays on to myths and whatnot about governments experimenting on black people, even to the current day. And it's a terrible thing to do, to create division with things like that when there's plenty of real crimes committed against black people throughout the history of the United States. There's really no need to make one up. But here, it's just in this superhero context, so there's some amount of forgiveness for it. So what are you going to do? But anyway, so it left it to where a lot of these kids that were experimented on ended up being killed off or something. But no, they were kept in suspended animation. So there was what's her name? Thunder Woman, the daughter of, well, actually just Thunder, but I like to call her Thunder Woman. She found them, and then they went back and they were gone and all that. And then you got some action there, some more, showcasing of Black Lightning's abilities, and so his daughter, and they're kind of like this good Batman and Robin team going on there. And so that was cool. But the rest of it was kind of slow, but it's carrying on this story. I just think, I'm a big believer that now TV series should shrink down their count of episodes, so they're not too many filler episodes. And when the basic story, you know what it is and how to get there. And I think this show does. So a lot of these shows are slow because they have to be, because they've got so many episodes to fill up. So I don't know, that could drag it down to its detriment. But ultimately, more demonstrations of the daughter, the younger daughter now with her electro powers, which is very similar to her father. So like I said before, the girls will be called Thunder and Lightning. See, and so there you go. I think the ASA thing will probably be resolved, and perhaps what's going on with Lala, the formerly dead lieutenant of Tobias's gang, now back from the dead. Gee, how'd that happen? Well, that's still a little bit mysterious, and I'm not sure if the ghosts that he's seeing are actual ghosts or if they're just manifestations of his mind. And we may find out that Lala himself may have actually been one of those kids that was experimented on, and now he's developed his own powers by dying, and now he can resurrect. But that's complete speculation on my part. Other little tidbits at the last episode. This episode didn't speak to it anymore, but there was a little name drop. Everybody, I think a lot of people caught it, where they were talking about Supergirl and Vixen, and that was a little odd about which universe is Black Lightning in. We don't know yet, and it could be he's in one of his own. But since Supergirl was mentioned, it's possible that people in the Flash universe and Arrowverse, what have you, would have heard of Supergirl from the crossover, but I'm not so certain of that. And so to me, it would seem more likely that he's in the Supergirl world, and they just had their own version of Vixen, who was also mentioned. But, we'll see. Those are little things that could, attract interest into the show, despite being kind of slow and sluggish as it's going. But pretty much there's not much mystery left at this point. I think it's going to be a foregone conclusion that somehow the experiments might have led to Black Lightning's creation, but there's no mention that he would take drugs when he was a kid, so I'm not certain how they would work that out. But apparently taking the drugs that was supposed to make you docile gives you... Boy, talk about backfiring. And then after that lesson, guess what? They're doing it again! So this is the dumbest secret agency ever. But, well, what are you going to do? Unless, of course, they're looking to create superpowered people for their own super soldier program like they did in Marvel, So that would probably explain the plot better than just, well, we're nasty and we like to experiment on kids, and whoops, now they got superpowers. Oh, well, better stick them in one of those refrigerators. So, but there again, it might be for the entirety of the next season. That I'm guessing here is that the people that were frozen are going to get released, and you've got all these superpowered people. Their lives were stolen. They're mad, and quite a few of them might become supervillains that Black Lightning's going to have to deal with. And so it's kind of similar to what happened to the Flash when he had his, accident, so-called lightning bolt, which resulted in a bunch of other people getting superpowers. And so most of his villains came out of that. So here would be Black Lightning and his daughters having to deal with all these superpowered people who just don't see eye to eye with him. So that might make for a new story arc after this one reaches its conclusion, for where Black Lightning and his daughters have to deal with all these superpowered people that are now running around Freeland. So there you go. Another episode that is dogged by the same things that I always complain about, but all in all, it's still not reason enough to quit it altogether. So this one gets 3 out of 5 stars, and but hopefully the payoff is more than just strutting around with music and stuff and explosions, and that's it. I mean, the strongest parts has been they've done the relationship between the family well, and eventually the title is the Book of Redemption. Well, the redemption is for Gamby here at this point. And ultimately, Black Lightning is going to have to admit that he cares about Gamby, even though he's mad at him for having lied to him. But ultimately, Gamby is somebody he's going to need for these high-tech suits that help him out quite a bit, especially keeping his daughter safe and all that. So it'll be interesting to see what finally pushes the younger daughter, because she has no interest whatsoever for the superhero and superpowers and all that sort of thing. But obviously she'll come around for whatever reason, and hopefully they can handle that in a credible way, because at this point, she's got no interest at all. So, again, 3 out of 5 stars for Black Lightning. Slowly but surely, it does still show potential. It's not quite there yet. But if it were up to me and they had to shave off one of the shows, I'd go for one of the other ones. Not Flash, but Supergirl, Arrow, and Legends. You might want to. Legends has it's funny on occasion, but ultimately, oh boy, are there problems. And Arrow, I gave up on, and Supergirl, I'm afraid I've pretty much given up on that one too. So plenty to choose from if you need to make room. But anyway, we'll see how all this goes. Thanks for listening and watching, and we'll do it again sometime. Now, take a look down in the link description below for all my stores of goodies for you. Flash Gordon conquers the enemy. Oh, man, this is no place to change your pantyhose. Yeah, come on, girls, don't fight.
She struck me.
You got a lot of great stock footage up in here. I know.
Shouldn't we have sighted Ming's stronghold by now? No, we are following the indirect course to avoid observation.
Moon of the Wolf. God, I hope this isn't a porno about a wolf's ass. Say, you look like... Ha ha! Oh!